Hello, I'm Andrew Hara, the host of the Bomb Squad. I wanted to tell you about my movies. All are available on Tubi, which is a free streaming service. The last one is a zombie drama about how a pandemic and isolation could drive a group of people mad. When the virus hits, John finds himself alone and scared until he meets Michael, his protector. But when Karina, another survivor, enters the mix, everything that John and Michael knew will be turned on its head. The last one's is a zombie virus movie that's somehow even more relevant today. Plus, it has zombies. Check it out. Borderland is a mexploitation film about living in El Paso. When Sarah finds herself in debt to the cartels, she has until sunrise to find some missing monies with the help of her executioner. Borderland is a true midnight movie and a lot of fun. Finally, the documentary Humble Spirits tells the story of the Hahn family, including champion Jennifer Hahn from El Paso, Texas. The entire Hahn family has grown up in the combat sports and has helped shape who they are both in and out of the ring. Humble Spirits, a family of fighters, is the perfect documentary for boxing fans of all ages. Check out Tubi to watch all my films. Finally, The Empty Space, winner of multiple awards, including the Sacramento Horror Film Festival's Best of the Fest, is a cosmic horror about Amy Andrews, who's dealing with anxiety and depression after a violent attack that killed her husband. As she tries to find herself, she starts to lose her grasp on reality. Or could it be something much more sinister? The Empty Space is full of twists and turns, with Grace DeWilder of Rue Morgue magazine calling it a powerful film full of excellent performances by practically every cast member. All of Andrew Hada's movies are available to rent or buy on streaming services such as Tubi, Amazon, and many other places. We hope that you help support us by watching these films. Now, let's start the Bomb Squad. Hello, welcome back to the Bomb Squad. We have a regular episode, not a top 10. We're going to do the top 20 of 2022. We're just going to keep doing lists because they're not super popular. Anyway, welcome to the Bomb Squad where we're back to our normal schedule of reviewing underseen and overly hated movie. Now, the movie we picked today, it's a William pick, and we did not pick an overly hated movie. We have picked an underrated movie because people don't talk about this movie enough. This
Kind
is
of at
what
all.
movies this is what movies used to be like before your superhero and your video game movies, Josh. This is
Oh, the
what
beep
real
beeps and
movies
the boop
feel like.
boops. Yeah, real
We're talking
people.
about
You're
we're
the
talking
one
about
on our
19
top 10 list. You put a Mario graphic, despite that not being one of our top 10
Listen, guys,
movies.
I had to lure the viewers in.
Of
I'm just saying,
course.
speaking of video game shit, you're just the
I
one
had to,
putting it out.
I lure them in with Super Mario Brothers and I keep them with talking about women talking. A very
Mamma
popular
mia.
movie for gamers. But anyway, we're talking about
Absolutely.
1998's Ronin, starring Robert De Niro, starring Sean Bean, starring Jean Reno, who's the most French person ever, starring Stellan Skarsgård. I bet you he's a good guy. And a bunch of people that you've seen before. You know Jonathan Pryce is in this movie.
Absolutely.
He's fucking looking weird, like always. I don't know where Josh went. Oh, he's back. Guys, am I going to cut this out? We'll find out when you watch this
Absolutely
episode.
not. No, we're keeping it. It
Uh,
was too real, too raw.
Joshua, in one sentence, why don't you tell us what Ronin is about?
Um, the deal goes bad, and the players involved try to make it happen anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They got to get paid one way or another.
I, William, why did you pick Ronin?
So over quarantine, I kind of realized that, like, I think that, like, the late to mid 90s, like, all those action movies, like Enemy of the State, and like this movie and The Negotiator and like Con Air, just all that stuff was like just the best time for action films of my youth, anyways. And this one always kind of got by me, and I love it because it's just like it kind of feels like Goldeneye, the movie, but like more serious. And it also kind of reminds me of a lot of like those kind of like old like proto French New Wave crime films that were coming out, like Jean
Yeah.
Pierre Melville kind of stuff. And I don't know, it just feels like this is such a good movie, and it has such a great cast, and it has such a cool story, and it's exciting, but like I don't know, it just snuck under the radar for like everybody. Like I guess it's kind of gotten some
Yeah.
recognition now, but I don't know. I was just really surprised at how good it was and like how just kind of hidden in like those
It,
'90s movies it was. But it seemed like really
and it kind
influential in a lot of stuff.
it's like at the perfect place between like you have, and it feels very like Brian De Palma's first Mission Impossible movie. Like it kind of feels like it has
Totally.
that kind of feel.
Oh yeah,
But it's
yeah.
Yeah.
like this.
Those,
It's this weird place between where like you have the James Bonds of like the '70s and the '80s and the '90s,
hmm
and then you have where we're gonna get to like with Casino Royale and like more super realistic and kind of like, but like kind of like Mission Impossible, like now how it's like, yeah, it's not like fantastical, but Tom Cruise is jumping off of like
Right.
helicopters to jump on other helicopters. But this
Yeah.
felt like before that, where it's like Robert De Niro's not jumping off a helicopter, but he's gonna shoot every guy he sees.
Right. In the middle of a
Where like,
coliseum, even.
yeah, it feels very realistic, but it also feels like very kind of like this is how spy thrillers used to be, you know? Which
Yeah,
Right.
is it's very cool.
it's almost like seeking two different audiences, which I think is kind of why it flies under the radar. It's like two, like it's like the old and new spy movies. It's like the kind of
hmm
fun and then the gritty, and it's like, oh yeah, I could see why this didn't quite hit, even though all the
Right.
ingredients are
Right.
there. You know,
Totally.
it's interesting. Yeah.
Those
It
two
feels like
audiences are cool guys and more cool guys.
yeah, it's like somehow ahead of its time, but also like behind its time
Yeah,
by a lot.
I
It's really
it's
strange.
But no,
it
it's like there's like some super gritty stuff in this that's like, oh, that's like a 2000s type movie that we're like,
Right.
it's
Very
like
kind
they
of
wouldn't go
born.
this hard, but
Yeah.
like it's still kind of mostly like a fun romp, you know, where
hmm
like
yeah. Well,
yeah, go ahead, yeah.
one of my favorite things about this movie is like for 90% of the movie, none of the main characters really know who's the bad guy or what's going on. But
Yeah.
that does not stop them from shooting everyone who like even kind of walks in their way, you know? Like they're
Yeah.
like, oh, I'm gonna fucking murder you, you know.
Right.
Which I really like. Also, okay, tell me if you guys feel like this. Because in this movie, Robert De Niro has a love interest, which is another member of the team. And then
hmm
they're on a stakeout and they kiss, and then they're like, oh, we really like each other. And I feel like anytime Robert De Niro kisses like a woman in a movie, I kind of feel like when I watch my dad kiss my mom, you know, like I feel like I respect Robert De Niro so much. I feel like a little embarrassed because I'm like
Yeah.
interrupting him, you know? Like,
Absolutely. I shouldn't be seeing this.
Yeah.
maybe it's because his most famous movies, he never has like a real love interest. Like he doesn't have one in The Godfather, Taxi Driver, of course not. You
Yeah.
know?
He's not really like a lovable
Well,
guy. He isn't. He's like anti-romantic.
Yeah,
so it's also like weird because it's like he's actually pretty. He doesn't come across as too old in this movie. He's way older than his love interest, which is normal in like these
Yeah.
action
I
movies.
don't
But
know how
Yeah.
much older he is in
I think
this
he's
one.
Probably
maybe
like
like
10 to
20, 30
15.
years. But it's
Yeah,
like in
the
my mind,
normal
he's old man
range.
De Niro because he has been for
Yeah.
20 years.
But
So
that's
it's
the
like,
problem is that he looks older, and so
Yeah.
yeah, he definitely like has that kind of more grizzled look.
also,
Yeah.
so like this is a team of like ex government agents, and
Mhm.
it's made up of like Robert De Niro. It's made up of like every cool tough guy like Stellan Skarsgård, Gene Reno, like all these fucking tough guys.
Yeah.
And the most beautiful woman that's ever existed in Europe. She
Right.
looks like Cleopatra's like descendant. And then also, just some dude's dad is part of the team. He's like the weapons guy. He doesn't tuck
Yeah.
in his shirt
His name is
when he's
Larry.
on the mission. Yeah, his name is Larry. And I'm like, Larry, tuck in your fucking shirt, bro. Like, what are you doing?
Nah,
You need to
nah.
tuck, like, you
When they
gotta
first show him at
run.
that bar, his like his introduction to the movie, he's like slouched back with like this huge like gut hanging out. He's just like having a beer and
Yeah.
like this is a random guy who shouldn't be here. And the next thing he's
Yeah,
like, I can get all
every
the
team
fucking
has one.
weapons. Yeah.
Yeah, he's like, I
Just
got
a
all the
chiller.
weapons. It's like, are you sure?
Where?
It's
I
like when
think
you
I know
have an
where.
office job and there's the one guy who never wears a tie. It's just
Yeah,
like-
yeah.
Larry would definitely
Dennis
be the guy
Nedry.
who, yeah, he would definitely be wearing shorts in the winter, being like, it's not that cold, guys.
Yeah.
Anyway, they slit his throat.
hard up. Yeah, that's also something I like
But
about this
yeah,
movie is that like the plot just like doesn't matter. Like we could spoil this
yeah,
movie and it just fucking doesn't
But
matter.
it's also one of those
it's
like
such a
it's
cool movie.
very like
Yeah.
they're seeking a case and they never tell you they it's important and it's very
Mhm.
like like a a Pulp Fiction type thing where it's like it's never really defined what it is, but
Yeah,
Right.
everyone wants it, like 5 different criminal groups. I do like that because this movie is 1998. The main antagonist is like an IRA terrorist, and it's like, oh
Yeah.
yeah, people still took that real seriously in the '90s.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was kind of a big deal.
Right. And then just vague Russians as well. Just
Yeah.
the
Yeah,
Russians.
that's still the case though. The Russians will
I-
always
Yeah,
be
yeah.
vague
Yeah.
bad guys.
I do like. Okay, so yeah, one of the bad guys is Russian, and he has like a beautiful ballerina teen bride that he
Mhm.
does not care about, like whatsoever.
Yeah.
No. Yeah.
He does not. He does not
He's
care.
a
if
bad
she
man.
dies.
She's not even a trophy.
I know.
exists.
It's just like something that's there. Yeah. But no, I think this movie's cool. It's kind of that thing where, like, I understand that not every movie can be this vague with what the plot is, but I kind of like it because if you think about it, like, if you're a field agent on a mission, it doesn't really matter what's in the case,
Right.
like. And I think about if you saw the last, I'm gonna do a spoiler for the last Mission Impossible for the very opening of
Dead
the movie.
Reckoning Part 1.
So the opening of the first movie was actually supposed to be the opening of the second movie because it reveals what they're searching for in the first movie. But they reveal it right away, so the whole first movie they're like, "Oh, what can this do? What can this do?" But we know, and to be honest, it makes it a little bit boring because we know what they're looking for, and so they're
Yeah,
trying
you
to
know
like
the
find it.
mystery. Yeah.
And so, like, I do think, like, in this movie, I'd rather not know enough than know way too much. Like, know more than the characters. And this movie kind of, like, shows you. Like, if you watch this movie and you watch Dead Reckoning, like, kind of watch them together and see why one works and one doesn't. And it's literally because of one scene where they
Yeah.
explain too
But they
much.
also don't it's not like the premise of the movie is not like we have to figure out what, like, there's no reveal of what's in the case. That's more
Right.
just like it's deliberately
Yeah.
obtuse, whereas they're like racing against the clock to solve the mystery in Mission Impossible, but you've answered the mystery. It's like such a it's a
Yeah.
bad idea.
Well, it's also, like, I don't know if you know this, Josh, but the case never matters in any of these spy movies. They might explain it more, but, like, we did Mission Impossible 2, and if you can tell me what was in the case in that movie, you can't.
It was a
I
nerve
can
agent
tell you.
because they
Yeah.
have to
It was-
do
it was
the
too
bio
violent.
facility.
Chimera.
Yeah, that's actually
Only
probably the only
Only
one
because
I
it was so
remember.
ridiculous because it was called
Yeah.
Chimera and Bellerophon.
Now, if you asked me what the terrorist was doing in Mission Impossibles 3 through 7, no
Exactly.
idea. Just
Yeah.
Tell me
gonna
what.
kill some people.
Explain to me what the entity wanted. Then you
Yeah.
can make that claim. This is for our new viewers. We did Mission Impossible. Go check that one out.
It's good.
Link right here.
Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
remember. Yeah.
Good double feature
um,
with Ronin.
No, you know what's
Also- oh,
funny?
go ahead.
This movie kind of how you're talking about like, oh, it's like two different genres. I think that's almost perfectly kind of like shown in the beginning because first you show like the team getting together, right, and it's kind of the
Mhm.
usual Reservoir Dogs. They're talking about the job. They're kind of being dicks to each other, and then they go on the job and like they're supposed to like buy the case off these like French guys, right?
Some like
um,
weapons, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, and then they're like, oh yeah, no, we only have some of the money. Actually, go down that tunnel down there. That's where the rest of the money is. And then they're like, okay, this is obviously a trap, And then like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and then there's like Robert De Niro's like, let's not do it. Let's not do it. They do it. Of course, it's a big shootout. But the guy waiting for them in the tunnel is like the Monopoly man. Like,
I
for
know
some
with his like
reason.
little hat. It's
He's
like little
like-
shiner
He's
hat.
a foppish dandy, and it's like,
Yeah.
sir, you're in the wrong movie. This is a gritty spy
I know.
thriller, not
It's
Mr.
so-
Megorium.
it's
He needs
so
to be
funny
at home with
'cause
his family, with his old wife and his grandkids.
Like,
Not on
if
the
you-
job.
If you saw the trailer for this movie and they're like, it's De Niro, he's like shooting guys. It's like very realistic car chases.
Mhm.
You wouldn't be like, oh, I bet you there's a ballerina and she plays a very big part in this movie.
Right.
But you would have been wrong because it does. Also, I like that Gene Reno just kind of plays like a golden retriever in this
I
movie.
know.
Oh yeah,
Where like
he's
he
just
gets
De Niro's
hurt,
best
A
friend.
cigarette
and then
for
De Niro
later.
helps him. Yeah, and then he just
Yeah,
like follows De Niro around all the
he's
time.
so
I mean
nice.
that kind of undercuts the movie being called Ronin. Ronin
Yeah.
seems like one of those titles where they're like, "That's a really cool title." It's like, do we have a reason to use it? We'll find one.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
the
I feel like
the
Americans are
reason,
obsessed with Ronins. Like we fucking
yeah,
Yeah.
love that idea of Ronins so much.
I think it's because it just sounds like everyone likes being a samurai or like having
It's
Hmm.
like
samurai
Blade
stuff,
Runner, just
but you
is
don't
a
want to
cool
work for
thing.
someone, you know. So like
That's
a
so
Right, but
warrior
American
like,
doesn't
too,
work.
right?
Yeah,
It's like we're not
but
for
it's very
society, we're
like
for ourselves. You know,
yeah.
like a
Like
Ronin.
De Niro is not for himself because his best friend Jean Reno's there the whole time. That's like the weird because they even try to like at one point he gets injured and this doctor's like, "Do you know the story of Ronin, Robert De Niro?" And it's like,
Yeah.
He's like,
yeah, it
fuck
doesn't
no.
relate to my situation, but
Yeah, they were
thank you for
idiots.
telling me.
I'm not
Yeah.
gonna kill myself.
Halfway through the movie, Jean Reno gets they meet up with the page master who just kind
Yeah.
of tells them wisdom. It's like that scene in Kill Bill where Bill goes or where the bride goes to like that ancient Japanese or Chinese like teacher and he teaches them
Hmm.
karate
Oh
and
yeah,
stuff. It's the exact same except it's like an English guy and he's like, "Oh, did you know about Ronins?" And Robert De Niro's like,
Yeah.
"We're all bleeding out. Like we don't need story time right
yeah,
now."
it's also-
Go paint your little nerdy ass miniatures. It's
yeah,
like
and
old
it's like
French man
his
making miniatures.
He does miniature. He's the most European person of all time.
it's like
Have you heard of
yeah because
Warhammer
he
40K?
tells him the famous story of the Ronin who like killed themselves at the, after they like
47
came to an
women.
agreement. It's like, oh, and it's important to like not kill yourself for your master, but it's like at no point did De Niro seem loyal to any master or like idea in
Right.
this movie. He's just kind of trying to get out alive and take revenge on the IRA.
It's also like
Yeah.
at the end, he kind of like he tells the girl because there's a girl, and he's like, "Hey, I didn't care about this job at all. I'm just here to kill the boss because they screwed over the government that I worked for at one point." And you're like, "That's even less of a Ronin. You're not. You're still working for your master."
Right.
Also,
In
like I feel like
spirit.
Robert De Niro is like he's perfectly cast because in Europe he's so out of place that you immediately dismiss that he would be involved with anything because you're like, there's no way that fucking Jersey guy, that
I know.
Italian New York guy is gonna be part of this. He sticks out too much, and that's how he
Yeah.
tricks you.
Especially when he speaks French, like at the beginning of the movie. Like he asks for like a
Yeah,
Oh
little cup
yeah.
of wine, and it's like
like
I just watching Killers of the Flower Moon so recently, and also this, like hearing Robert De Niro speak a foreign language is just the most absurd shit of all time.
yeah.
He just
See,
sounds
you
like
can
such a
either
fucking
like
moron.
if
Like
you're
no
a
offense.
spy, you can either be Tom Cruise, where you're so handsome that you like kind of can blend in because you look like everyone, or you
Yeah.
can be Robert De Niro, where you're so specific that you kind of blend in because you're too specific of a person that people just have to
Right.
forget about you
Yeah, like
and
there's
go
no
about their
way
day.
he's part of
Yeah.
something. Yeah.
Yeah.
You,
Yeah.
you know what I actually liked because yeah, kind of like you said, everyone's like in it. Like that's almost the twist of the movie is like there's not a traitor, there's like five traitors. They're all
Yeah.
like working against each
Right.
other.
Right.
Sean Bean is like part of the team at the beginning, and you assume he's gonna be like a traitor, and he is. Like they like bought him out or
Yeah.
whatever.
He's like
Does
freaking out the
not
whole time.
die. Like it's like the one role in the '90s where Sean Bean didn't die. They're just like, "Well, leave. You're not on the team," and he just like leaves and is not in the rest
I
of the
know that's
movie.
so funny that he
Yeah.
doesn't die, but he's immediately like it's even worse.
He doesn't even come back and like fuck him up. Like he seemed like a big threat.
Yeah.
And like
Yeah, I
everything that
honestly
Because
De
thought
Niro
like it
says,
would be
he's like,
like he helps the Russians or something, but no, he's just
right.
gone.
He
also he's so
respectfully takes the stuff and leaves. He's so nice
he's
about
so
it.
sweaty in this movie. Like, why is
I
he so
know.
sweaty? He looks like the most like it's like, oh no, that guy. Like, have you guys seen Barry?
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
the show.
So
Yeah,
you know, there's that scene with Fred Amiston where Barry's like
Armisen.
sitting there and he's like, "That guy's here to kill me,"
Oh,
and
and
he
he's
cuts
just
to him and he's just like, "That's what Sean Bean looks like in this movie the whole
Right.
time." So you're like, "Oh
Constantly.
yeah, that guy. That guy's
Yeah.
the one who's gonna." And then I don't know if there's any spoilers, but guys, I don't know if you're ready for this information.
Of course.
But the character of Igor, played by Stellan Skarsgård, it's a bad guy.
yeah,
Gregor.
the most evil-looking man.
Yeah.
is-
Yeah, his name's
With his
Gregor.
little glasses, he's just like,
They also
he
they
he looks like Jeffrey Dahmer, and they're like, wait, he's the bad guy. I would have figured that
they
out.
do that
No.
thing where he steals the case so you know he's bad, and then to show you that he's really bad, he's like, "You want to see how serious him?" He drives to a playground and he's
Yeah.
just shoot random
Yeah.
children to like
With the
So
show the
silenced
Russians he
pistol.
means
in
business.
this scene, he like drives to a playground. He takes his gun out. He's like, "I'm gonna kill this kid," and he's like, "Oh, this one," and then he's about to shoot him, and the guy like moves his hand. He's like, "Don't do that," and he goes, "I did that to show you that I was gonna kill some random kid for no reason. Imagine what I'll do to you." And that
Right.
guy should
It's
have
no
been
one's
like,
kid even. It's not even like a person's kid. It's just a random child.
I wish that guy had been like, "Wait, do you do this every time? Like, how many kids have you killed? Like, what if I hadn't moved your hand? Would you have shot him in the head?"
Yeah,
So I
that
feel like that would have drawn way more attention on us than
I
just
know.
stealing this case that nobody knows about. Murdering a child, we probably would have been on some lists.
Right. Every single
that
one of
was
them.
like that was the weird thing too was like that guy, like we don't know that guy's just a random like Russian that he's trying to
Yeah,
like sell the case to.
Hmm.
So we don't really know this Russian, but we know Stellan Skarsgård. But it's like we're not really rooting for the Russian or him. So it's just like
yeah.
you're
Here
just
we
like
are.
with this random Russian being like, "Hey, calm down, man. I'm just here to buy the
And
case."
it's so funny because like they're doing like the normal plot, but every like 10 minutes it just cuts to Stellan Skarsgård trying to sell the case behind everyone's back to a random other person, and then eventually he gets caught and he's
I
like
don't
because
know.
they like even in that scene where he tries to kill the kid and then he like makes a deal with that guy to like sell the case and then he just goes back to hanging out with Robert De Niro and you're like, is this not going to be addressed? Like what the hell happened?
Right. Right.
The team's very, their team bylaws are pretty loose. So you just kind of
Yeah.
betray them and be fine.
Yeah.
I did love though, like that was one of those things where I was still like pretty shocked when the case changes hands like three times, but ultimately Stellan Skarsgård gets it
The,
back.
the chase
Yeah.
changes hands like 3 times per like chase scene that they do.
Right. Right.
There is a lot of it.
Hmm.
But Stellan Skarsgård is like, okay, I'm gonna sell the case to these Russians still, even though I've already killed several of them. They're still willing to deal, but I'm gonna set it up so if they try to kill me instead of pay me, I'll shoot the Russians' ice skater girlfriend.
Right.
And then he kind of does. He's like, if I don't make a call in the next 30 seconds, your girlfriend. And you see like the guy with the sniper rifle trained on like his girlfriend during the ice skating performance,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
the event.
Millions of people in attendance. Well, thousands.
Stellan was like, "Should I do this like tomorrow when like nobody will
No,
see me?" And he's like, "Nah, I need to do it
he
right now
he,
for
he
no
wants it
reason."
to be a huge spectacle, and you assume the Russian guy is going to relent because that's kind of like, oh, he still has some morality. But no, the
Yeah.
Russian guy just shoots him in the face, and then his girlfriend dies, and he's like,
Yeah.
yoink.
It was a
And
Yeah.
then
crazy
like it's
headshot too. It like you see the
I
bullet like it
know.
went to
Like
his
I was
head.
like,
It's
yeah,
like
this
what
is
the fuck?
hardcore.
it's also funny because he does like, okay, so they shoot him, and then like they shoot the girl, and then Robert De Niro like comes in, like he hears the shot, and then he walks into the room, and Stellan is on the ground, and then he just looks at the TV, and the girl's also dead, and then they just leave, and it's like, man, everyone's pretty cool with like. Imagine if you were at a show and the main like fucking Ariana Grande just got sniped, everyone would be like
Fucking
running out
murdered.
of there,
Yeah.
but
Yeah,
everyone's
everyone
just
like
kind
kind
of
of
like
calmly
slowly
leaves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, we
Well,
gotta be
that's like
courteous. No one else
It's
has
not like
but
died.
she
like
fell. Like they could have done it so that
Yeah.
it made it look like she fell or something, but no. She
She got
clearly gets shot
fucking
and she grabs
sniped.
it. And she's like, ah!
Yeah.
but it's like to me it's like crazy to set up a moral dilemma like that. Like it would almost be like in The Dark Knight if the two boats did blow each other up and you're like, "Oh, okay, I
Uh,
guess the moral is negated. There is no
the
moral.
Joker's right. We
Yeah.
knew
Everyone's
the whole
bad."
time.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah, I was counting on someone to do the right thing and they didn't.
I know, I do, but I do like that. It's kind of like
Yeah,
nobody in
yeah,
this movie really ever has the upper hand because they
Yeah.
don't realize like how like willing everyone else is to go, like how far they're gonna just take it, And I think that
Yeah.
makes it fun. Um, and yeah, I mean the car scenes, like I'm not a huge car scene guy, but I do like them when they're done well. Of course, they're realistic,
Same. Yeah.
and so like the movie's like just 90% car chases, which is pretty cool
Yeah,
because you're just like driving. I feel like Europe's the best place to do car chases. You know?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, like
Everyone
kind of
keeps their
windy
cool.
roads.
Yeah.
It's
You
a
know
good
what I
place to
like
snipe
too.
and do car chases.
Yeah.
And this is kind of one of those things like you wouldn't really think about unless you were like editing a movie, but like what they'll do a lot is, obviously like as these like cars are like on the freeway or whatever it's called in Europe, um, they'll like knock aside like random passenger cars who are like all messed up, but then it'll kind of cut to be like, oh, by the way, here's like a lingering shot of all the
Yeah,
passenger cars they messed up, and it's
the
like
piles up.
they just wouldn't even have that today because it's just all CGI bullshit. So that's like,
Right.
no, we're
Right.
not going to animate but it's like, no, they really had to crash cars, so they're going to
A
be like,
whole
yeah, let's
bunch.
film like the passenger cars like freaking out and stuff because it's like it
Yeah,
doesn't
Yeah.
yeah.
take $50,000 extra to animate that one
Like
car,
let's
you
shoot
know.
Right.
this random car. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like just having practical like action scenes like really like kind of lends itself to like, oh yeah, you could do a bunch of extra stuff with like cool little shots like that. So
Right. And there's
I
a lot of
really
like slow
appreciate.
crashes. Like a lot
Yeah,
of like a lot of like slow people like people trying to like stop before they hit a bunch of stuff. Like I don't know. Yeah, I was noticing that too. Like just so much property damage was done in this movie that wouldn't be done in this day and age at all. Like it's kind of
yeah, it
interesting.
would be
Yeah.
like all green screens. Yeah,
Right.
it's,
So as a Fast and the Furious fan, Andrew, what do you think about these car chases in Ronin? What is your Do you think that Vin
Fast.
Diesel, if he were in Ronin, do you think he would have made the family more together, or do you think this is sort of like the antithesis of
I
the
mean,
Fast and Furious?
my favorite thing about the Fast and Furious movies is kind of like the opposite of these movies, where like in this one nobody ever has a plan and it always goes wrong. In this one, they're like, oh, in Fast and Furious, they're like, hey, this guy has like a bunch of, um, like, oh, there's like lasers and sharks guarding this safe, and there's like it's in
Mhm.
space, and then Vin Diesel goes, I got an idea, and then they just like steal it without like any kind of
right.
real.
It'll like they've
No
had like
hiccups.
five backup
Yeah.
plans the whole
Yeah,
time in that movie. Yeah, whereas in this movie, like they don't even have a plan for like what if the car doesn't show up. So they're like,
Right,
I guess
right.
just shoot 20 people and run. I
Yeah.
don't know.
You got your pistol, De Niro, then go for it. You'll be
Yeah.
fine.
yeah, like yeah. And they don't really kill people as much as you'd think, and even if they do, they come back to life.
Yeah, every
Nobody's coming back to life in this movie.
it's weirdly like, I don't know, like a lot of people die in
Hmm.
Yeah,
this
A lot
movie,
of
but
random
it
people.
works out. Really the citizens of Paris get the short end of the stick in this
the
movie.
citizens of
Yeah.
Paris.
Yeah, and the blood effects were cool. I like that, like old school, like whenever someone gets shot, like there's always like the blowback of the blood, which makes a lot more sense. But like back in like this era, if you got shot in the chest, like your chest would bleed, like this like thick
Yeah,
blood comes out of your front,
and
which
I,
I always thought
I
looked cool, but it makes no sense.
and I think like Josh brings up kind of a good point about like the some of the stuff that you lose when you go out, you take off of practical, is you have like you don't ever see the repercussions, which you have to do when you do practical. You know, like the car is gonna get
Yeah.
crashed, where in CGI you don't really have to show the car crashed if you don't want to. You can just show it, and then that's it. Because you don't.
Right.
I mean, you're
Cut
just
away.
if anything, you'd want to cut as quickly as possible so you don't have to animate any more of it.
Right.
And so I think that's something that's lost. And I think like
That was
to
like
me, and that's the problem with the fast movies. I mean, they fixed it since five, but they were doing the thing where they were starting to do CGI cars, and
Yeah.
it's like, no, guys, the only way of a car chase is ever interesting is if you use real cars. Because like, I need to
Right.
know a real car can do it. If it's just like flying in the air, it might as well be Iron Man. You know, like what's the difference?
Yeah. Or animated
that
that
was
way.
like it like and that's like my metric for it, because I remember the moment when I like the wheel turned on Marvel movies for me. It was the Age of Ultron, which I assume you've both seen. The Age of Ultron
Yeah.
Yeah,
Marvel. It's the 2nd
Mhm.
Avengers movie.
we saw that in theaters, Josh.
Yeah.
I saw it with someone else
Oh wait,
at a
which is
work
the one
event.
that has Thor? Oh no,
They all have Thor. There's like 7 movies with Thor.
They go to like there's a big building being raised in
I
the
think
air or something at
I
the
think I
very
was
end.
thinking of
That's like 5 of them too. No, okay. In Age of Ultron, the one with James Spader as the robot, there is a car
Yeah.
chase like in the first hour where not only is it one of those car chases where you never see a car again after Ultron jumps on it because it's all just CGI garbage, but it's one of those like oh, you just needed an action scene here because if you cut this like 25 minutes, the whole movie would be the same. Like they still get to the place they're going and nothing changed, you know? Like
Yeah,
no information changed. And that was one of those where I was like, oh, this is just like wasting my time. Whereas with this movie, you're like, oh yeah, like look at how they actually had to crash these like 5 cars as like De
right.
Niro like drives away. It's just it feels totally different, you know. It's just
Yeah,
one of
Right.
those. And it's like,
like real cars
and
are
that was like
dodging
when I
other
was watching
cars.
movies, and I was like, if this action scene's not going to do anything, why have it? You know, like
Right,
Yeah.
right.
I don't know. It's weird. That was like my defining maybe these movies are bad moment, and then
Yeah,
they were bad after
Yeah,
that.
and I think that
right.
I mean
10 years later, they're
there
still
might
going.
be we might be talking about stakes in the Marvel movies soon on a deep dive, but I do think that that's the problem is that you kind of lose that as you the more CGI the more you can do the less you can do.
Yeah,
Um, and I'm glad that things are kind of going back to normal. We seem to be like this, but this used to be like the bread and butter of studios, which is kind of disappointing that they don't really make movies like this. Even fucking Argyle is $200 million. I can
Yeah,
guarantee that this movie was not $200 million.
yeah. I think
it's
it's like
like the
50 million,
mid-budget
maybe.
action thriller. Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's gone. There's like so few of them anymore, and if they are, they're just kind of
Well,
like whatever.
well, they have them. They just get dumped on streaming services, but not
Yeah,
Tubi, guys. Tubi is very respectful of their artists. Um,
absolutely. I
and
guess the
so
killer
you
was
know,
kind of one.
someone
The
say
killer was kind
Tubi.
of this
Yeah,
vibe.
the killer is a perfect example of what happens to him now because like it just kind of unceremoniously came out
Hmm.
on Netflix and like
Right, even though like great movie, it made
yeah
my top like of 2023, but it's also like, oh yeah, it's on Netflix, so it's just people are going to treat it like 90 Day Fiance or whatever, you know.
Right
yeah
there it is. Yeah,
It's weird. It's weird. It's like bring prestige back to movies.
yeah.
yeah.
Where's the prestige, Christopher Nolan?
Come
We
on.
stop making movies about dorks who don't know how what war is.
Oh, didn't we do the prestige on this podcast?
Oh yeah, we
Actually,
did.
Oh,
see the
I fucking
link
love the
here.
Prestige. It's so good.
I know it is
Prestige
a
was
good movie.
it's like prime Nolan.
We need to bring back the prestige.
I know that kind of
Um,
mid-level action movie. Just
yeah.
they were always great. They were always like
And
I don't
even
know, some of my
like,
favorite
I
films.
mean, yes, and like, but I would say like any movie with like a $40 million budget, just about anything, you know, just
Yeah,
Yeah.
like where they don't have enough money to make everything CGI, but it's just real people in real locations.
yeah,
Yeah.
doing
Do
cool
that.
shit. Yeah,
Yeah. Get Robert De Niro to do Ronin 2. Bring him back.
No more
yeah.
sequels. We need a new movie. We always need new movies now. We're against sequels.
We'll call it
We're
Samurai.
against
But
all
anyway,
sequels.
check out our review of Mission Impossible Part 2.
And the Prestige.
And the Prestige.
All of them, really. Just check them all out.
Yeah, watch them all. There's a playlist that you guys
There's
should have
several,
been clicking
yeah.
on already, or you should be on it already. That's how you do it.
Please.
But yeah, I think it's cool. I think it's like it's always good to see De Niro in like one of these roles where it's like
Mhm.
he just like The Score is another one of these movies where it's like De Niro
Oh,
just likes to
yeah.
do thrillers every once in a while.
Yeah. That was
He
a
takes
good
a
one. No,
break
the score was
from
pretty good.
the. Oh yeah, The Score rocks.
Yeah,
Yeah.
trip me
What
out
was
is
the Score
that.
one that
Yeah.
hit all Score fandom? Get in our comments and tell us
Yeah.
how much you want us to cover.
Yeah.
There are dozens
Marlon
of you,
Brando's
surely.
The Score.
But I was gonna say, David Mamet co-wrote this, and it made
Yeah.
me remember. I was like, yeah, I like in my mind, he only writes Glengarry Glen Ross style movies. It's like, oh no, he just writes
Yeah.
like everything. He just
Yeah. But he didn't want to
Yeah.
use his
Throw it
name.
all
Because he only wants to use his name if he's like the main guy. So
yeah.
it's like
What
Jay
that's
something
like-
and then Richard Weiss, I think is his like
Yeah.
pen name.
Oh my God, David Mamet, calm down, bro.
He's kind of gone off the rails, right? He's kind of like a wackadoo kind of
I
right
think he
winger
was
now.
always kind of a wackadoo.
Oh,
You
he
mean
might have been.
like politically or
Yeah.
emotionally or what?
Oh, I don't
Both.
know.
Both, I guess. I think
I'm trying
politically
to
he's
see
like crazy.
the last David
I do
Mamet
think-
movie I saw.
Now that I'm thinking about it, I do remember he like loves Trump or hates Trump to a weird degree or something.
He just has strong opinions in general. You're saying?
Yeah.
Of course.
What a David Mamet is what people say. Oh
yeah.
well, he's best friends with Bill Maher, so I feel like that kind of.
So
Yeah.
kind of
Tells
that
everything
conservative
he
Democrat
needs
that
to
everyone
know.
hates
Yeah.
kind of situation. Yeah,
Sort of loudmouth.
a Hillary man, some might say.
Yeah.
HVAC specialist.
Um, but yeah, Ronin,
Yeah, it was
check it
good.
It's
out.
a good movie. It's got a good cast.
Yeah.
Yeah, but also we got a
It's
little
a movie.
special guest. Josh is off again. I don't know what's going on with his computer.
Oh,
Um,
we got a little cringer in the mix.
but we got a little cringer. He doesn't. Oh, there he is.
Oh, hello.
Hello, buddy. Are you bored? But yes, thank you guys for joining us on the Bomb Squad. Next week is going to be our two. You guys have been subscribing up the wazoo, so we're gonna do our 250th special. What
Mm-hmm.
movie will we cover? Who knows? Maybe Cringer will pick.
Maybe.
He sat down. He was like already gave up on us. But anyway, come back next week, guys. Check out Ronin. Give us a like and a subscribe. Josh, what do you have to say? Why are you putting your hand up? Never mind. He didn't even realize. And neither will you guys because you can't see it on the
Oh
actual
no.
thing. I think it's just for me. But either way, fun times. So yeah, join us here. There is a deep dive on the way. Also, check us out next week and we'll see what movie we picked for the 250th Bomb Squad subscriber special. We're so much closer to getting paid and making this our job that we hate. Um, so yeah, come back next week and we'll see you guys on the Bomb Squad. Josh is just openly texting on the phone, like
I
his
know.
phone
What
is
the
in
fuck?
the camera. Does he know that he's on
I
stream?
don't think he knows. I think